How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video we're going to discuss about the Atlantic hurricane season and determine when we should see the Atlantic hurricane season heat up, since it's been quiet over the past several weeks. Could we see that change within the near future? I'll answer those questions in this video, but before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. So let's begin. First, about taking a look at the precipitation anomaly that's forecasted by the climatology model, the CFS model, within the next several weeks, and it gives us really good insight of where all that convection will be headed into the more active part of the hurricane season into August, to really determine if we will see the hurricane season heat up in the near future. So if I were to show you guys, we do see that. Of course, right now there's a lot of stability in the northern Atlantic. Look at how much dry air there is. We do see a little bit more moisture than usual right around the Caribbean, or that's at least what the CFS model is forecasting this for this week. And you see that we do see a small area where it's a bit more moist than average just off the West African coast, but it's a little too far south to really make an impact on how many tropical cyclones develop in the main development region. And of course, we do see a lot of dry air to the west of it, which is pretty much diminishing any sort of chance that a low pressure system off the West African coast develops in the main development region. But if I were to continue to move forward, things get a little bit more interesting, because we do see the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean begin to moisten up a little bit, where we do see a little bit more precipitation than average for the next week, which includes the week of August 1st into August 8th. And then if we were to move a little bit even further than that, now we're starting to see conditions become a little bit more moist than average in the main Davao region. And while there is that small area where there's a little bit less precipitation than average, it's nowhere near what we're experiencing right now. So I'd say within the next probably as early as 2 weeks from now, we will begin to see tropical cyclones develop somewhere in the Atlantic. More specifically, the main development region, of course, is the most likely scenario, where of course that's during the most active part of the hurricane season. That's where most of majority of the tropical cyclones form. So the fact that we're seeing conditions get a little bit more moist by the third week time frame, beginning around August 8th, and which includes the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico as well, we should expect the tropical cyclone activity to heat up in the Atlantic, I'd say as early as 2 weeks from now. But who knows, we could see that potentially a little bit earlier than that. Right now, the GFS model and the European model isn't necessarily forecasting anything within the next 10 days at most. Maybe a little bit of convection right around the Caribbean, but it isn't much, as there's just too much stability for any sort of tropical disturbance to have a legitimate chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. So as a result, for I'd say at least the next week, things should be fairly quiet for a lot of the northern Atlantic, but that will change into the mid to late August time frame, where we continue to see the main developed region experience more precipitation than average. So more likely than not, we're going to see a lot more tropical waves come off of the African coast and more moisture, which will allow for a higher possibility of tropical cyclones to form. So that's something to keep in mind, but that's not the only thing that will favor tropical cyclone development within the next coming week, because while there is a lot of dry air right now, we're experiencing a lot less wind shear than what we typically experience for this time of the year. And unfortunately, that's expected to continue into August, where we continue to see much less wind shear than average over the next coming weeks for the main development region. However, we do have that little stretch, which includes the Caribbean, where wind shear is a little bit stronger than average. So there is that possibility that if a tropical cyclone were to develop in the main development region, that it will encounter a fairly strong wind shear, which could inhibit this storm from from being very strong as it heads further westward. So that would certainly be the best case scenario, that if we do see this area of higher than usual wind shear pretty much win out against any tropical cyclones that develop in the main development region and pretty much kill it off in the middle of the Atlantic. But since majority of the northern Atlantic is experiencing a lot less wind shear than usual, then we should expect more tropical cyclones than usual, even into August, even in the midst of this very dry spell we're seeing throughout the northern Atlantic. So as a result, I do expect things to become more active sooner rather than later for the northern Atlantic, and it could begin as early as the first week of August. So it's certainly something to keep in mind. Another thing we're going to need to pay attention to is, of course, the sea surface temperatures, because those that definitely plays a big role in terms of how much rising air there will be in the atmosphere for tropical cyclones to develop. So if I were to show you guys the forecast when it comes to sea surface temperature anomalies within the next several months. So we've been talking about the fact that that a good portion of the middle of the northern Atlantic is cooler than average, but the CFS model is still leaning towards the main developed region to heat up when it comes to sea surface temperatures a little bit. And of course, for the Western Atlantic and the Caribbean, we're seeing warmer than average sea surface temperatures for the most active months of the hurricane season, which includes August and September and even into October. So while things are quiet now, expect that to change head into the first week of August, especially when the sea surface temperatures begin heating up in the main developed region, which is currently forecasted at this time. Taking a look at the sea surface temperatures right now as of July 25th, we do see that right now, a good portion of the main development region is experiencing sea surface temperatures cooler than average, or pretty much hovering around average. But I do expect that to change, which will allow for a little bit less stability in the main development region and a little bit more convection going on in the main development region for more tropical storms to form. And the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic in general is already experiencing warmer than average sea surface temperatures. So we should eventually see the effects occur once the August time hits, and once of course the wind shear associated with the most active parts of the hurricane season begin to slow down. So as a result, we should see more tropical cyclones than usual right around the Western Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, and I think it could happen as early as the first week of August, like I said. And another thing we need to pay attention to is the MJO pattern, which if we're in the blues, we're in the negative MJO pattern, which favors more tropical cyclone development because there's more of an upward motion in the atmosphere for more convection to occur. However, if you're in the yellows and in the oranges and in the reds, then you should expect less favorable conditions for tropical cyclones, since there's a little bit more sinking air in the yellows and in the oranges. And as you can see, right now we're in the negative MJO pattern, which might be good news, because the fact that we're in a negative MJO pattern where the air is supposed to rise a little bit more and we still are seeing a very quiet Atlantic, that's suddenly a good thing, because when the more active part of the hurricane season comes around, we could be in a positive MJO pattern, which is forecasted for the first week of August, which could maybe inhibit tropical cyclone development for the beginning part of the most active month of the hurricane season, which would certainly be good news. And hopefully the positive MJO pattern sticks around for quite a long time during the main portion of the hurricane season, which includes August and September. Typically, it lasts 30 to 60 days. Hopefully, the positive MJO pattern lasts in the longer range for 60 days. So we go through the most active months of the hurricane season with a positive MJO pattern rather than negative MJO pattern, which would allow for more sinking air to dominate the northern Atlantic for less tropical cyclones to form. But we just have to wait and see. But it's suddenly good news that we're seeing a positive MJO pattern enter the northern Atlantic by the early August timeframe. So that could potentially make the Atlantic tropical hurricane season a little bit a little bit quiet for maybe a prolonged period, but I still do think that as early as the beginning of August, we will see the hurricane season maybe heat up a little bit, especially with the main developed region and the Caribbean receiving a little bit more precipitation than average as forecasted by the CFS model. Now, another thing I want to show you guys is Saharan dust layer forecast, and the good news is that the Saharan dust doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere within the next couple of days. We need to see if this lasts till early August. It's less likely it will last for the entirety of the hurricane season, but if this does at least last a little bit longer than it should, then that definitely would be good news, and that sort of would delay when we do experience a more active hurricane season. So the longer this dust stays around the main developed region, the longer we could expect the hurricane season to remain quiet. So hopefully this dust stays that way, and it's expected at least within the very near future. So that's only good news, and we need to see this stay for a little while to really determine to really have a quiet hurricane season. So now here's my forecast of when the hurricane season will heat up, and I do believe that early August we will begin to see some potential, at least the potential of a tropical cyclone developing in the main developed region. I do expect things maybe moisten up a little bit, and I could say the same for the Caribbean as well, where we will see a little bit more convection right around the main developed region and the Caribbean. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, but to take this forecast with a grain of salt because it could easily change. But but just because it's quiet right now does not mean it'll last. So make sure to prepare for this hurricane season because it is expected to heat up, and I think it should heat up by early August. So make sure to keep that in mind. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content, and I hope you guys all have a great day.